everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. This is Vdiffuser. In our last episode, we found out that Meekins is a patsy, and Marshall is gonna be, oh, this is gonna be interesting. There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out. I haven't figured anything out. Lana, you're the one who knows everything. Emma, you always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright's trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. There's the mood killer. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier few people at funerals. Sorry, Detective. You better be Hey! I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky. That's okay, so have you brought what I asked? Oh! You mean this, right? My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request. My name? Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SL-9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. SL-9 incident? But Lana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Here, you might do well to read them. I can't believe you, the chief prosecutor, were a witness in that case. Miss Skye was a witness? For the Joe Dark killings. Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with serial murders. Now that I brought you your stuff, you're gonna ignore me? Emma, but why? Why is your name here? My name's there? I don't know, unless... It couldn't be... Lana, this SL-9 incident, is that... That's the classification number the police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Dark killings. The Joe Dark... No! No, Lana! That's over with! No! Wait, she ran away. You know what? I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal. I'm out of here. Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth, everybody's here. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence. Knowing you, you might just be able to figure it out. Time to get back on to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck. I gotta give a good look at this file. Oh, now you do that! Hang on, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Just had to get the mail. Rock and roll. Alright. Back again. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. Jake Marshall. State your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. They always ask me the same thing. To wait one more turn. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman! As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English, thank you very much. Excuse me. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. Said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at the street side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care about your attitude. Can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yeah, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not good with machines. Or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Alrighty, I made sure nothing moved in the security room monitor. The room's so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. The videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual is to be recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase a tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy's a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't doing him any good. So you don't physically enter the evidence room. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado I know lets rules get in his way. No desperados I know join the police force. So, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in a victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner. Can't say I do. Haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? Yeah, we know that. What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Oh, Mr. Spaghetti Western here. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat that parlor's Vogno sepia pasta. You mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant! I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. Strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want to raise this year?" Well, of course, he's not a freaking detective, so he can't do anything. Let's see. We got proof that he was in there. So I believe Marshall's fingerprints. Officer Marshall. Doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime, and yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is, I make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingers were at the crime scene. The blood was wiped away, however. A luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. Yourself included, buddy. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall. About the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints. Found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in the evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. Well, how'd you know the murderer was wearing gloves, buddy? Alrighty, that wouldn't be fun without any dark partner. This guy's hiding something. I can feel it. Alrighty. That's because you, how did you put it? Pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now is a heap of broken dreams. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Alrighty then. How did you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There's a bloodstain on the scene thought to be left by the murderer. It was on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Yeah, we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This seal of blood in the desert. It's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. Long as my trail ain't in there, you can't say otherwise. Alrighty. Too bad it wasn't me in that video, right, partner? And so, that video is the only evidence you've got. That's next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. Someone was familiar with the camera's position. They could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Fine, we're gonna show evidence. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might end up being the one making the mistake. Let's see, we have to go right near the end. Let's see. Gotta make sure I'm not jumping the gun here. Otherwise I will get penalized. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. And we now know it belongs to you. That locker with the white cloth sticking out, that was the witnesses, I believed. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. And it's gone. It's gone! What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then suddenly it appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order! Order! It would seem that you only hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? That didn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to chose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? Because we just told you. This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah, I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker, now prove it. Oh, we don't even have to. Evidence locker. A fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. Some people don't even know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? That's some jerky right there. I only got 1 word for your partner. No! Order! 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 Witness, explain yourself! But this is a joke. It's the worst joke I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Olay! Please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's all right, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Let's see. Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. The only conclusion... he was the victim. He was standing right here. But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when he confronted. Yep, he asked him to show his card, and then he pulled a knife on him. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? He could have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his card. Don't show that! I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized that that man isn't Detective Goodman. You have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't hear me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving the shadow of a doubt that he dressed up as the victim? Who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems like you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This can't be happening! So obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. Mia used to tell me that. Try thinking outside the box. For proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. Look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why was his locker open in the first place? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of his crime. Yet he did, despite the chance that it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. Alrighty. Perhaps the video is the key to our answered questions. Open the locker to put away the light cloth. Please show us why he... Because it was bloody, right? That's his trench coat. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that. So you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. Two years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. All right. Seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas would be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you, but there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of large quantity of blood were found on the floor of that evidence room. If no one was murdered, how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Alrighty. When you say it, you mean... You even have to ask, partner. The SL-9 incident. 2 years have passed since the case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only the case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of the investigation. Why does he care about it so much? That day was my last chance. That's why I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. Why'd you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like the Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that was really why Goodman started filling out the lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Unless normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. There wasn't any murder. But the blood from the found certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. Mister, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. It was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. I have a feeling we'd find up here sooner or later. Anyone involved here is related in that case in one way or another. I better take another look at all the files. I was a little surprised. I only plan on being in the evidence room for more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would come in during that time. He's a 1 in a million type of person. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? He threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. Sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. What happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and managed to escape. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. Didn't think it would make a difference though. Security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. Yeah, that didn't end up happening. What else? He was sleeping like a baby. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Far away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. I am very much betting he gets fired after this. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are even a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one's mine. I'll do anything it takes to get an answer that I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. I can't forget the SL-9 incident. You know why? That case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? Yeah. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out. But there's still something that still bothers me. Something that went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? I have a feeling we'd have... Alrighty. Alright. We have to present the SL-9 files. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL-9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. Well, it'll quench ya. It's the quenchiest. I have the SL-9 incident file right here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. Is a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? You must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL-9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. What's his relation to you? He was my brother. Oh. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant and then the then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it. That's a reason for your insane actions. There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL-9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. This mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place in the police department that day. The things that happened by chance never cease to amaze. Exactly at the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's parking lot was the real one, which in turn means that only one person could have committed it. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police office today. There's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me the boys got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries have been resolved, no doubt about it. And you're wrong! The only suspect is Lana Skye, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a single response, make it a single word or less. Ah! I rest my case. Seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security tape was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. The court finds the defendant. Hold it! Your Honor, wait! Emma, the defense is an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor, in a sense... Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL-9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. You were in it. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day, so I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's malt locker. But no fingerprints were found on it, right? I figured it out. If I examine it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. Did you find something? No. Sorry. I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator at all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. Oh, wait a minute. There's something we never put on here, because the Blue Badger was there. I object. The handprint left at the scene clearly shows a contradiction. Is there a problem with him? Yes, there is. Something's missing. The Blue Badger is right here. What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. The Blue Badger's not here on the plans. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. As long as the Badger is dancing there, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot of the locker. What? So that means, what does it mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. He brought the Blue Badger there, put it down. It was left before the Blue Badger was brought in. Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous! I refuse to accept your absurd claims. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that doesn't explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that shows when it occurred. When did it occur? We have an ID card. Show me the money. The killer would have had to enter it, and in order to do so, an ID would have been required. There's only one person we don't know who it is, so it's gotta be them. Ah! Mr. Edgeworth! I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. No, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. Judge! It's clear from the luminol test that wasn't that. When the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. The blood from the first screen was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim and carry his body away and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have been taken before Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Mr. 777 here is our culprit. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense! How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered with a real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 77777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose number is 77777. That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that card. At least at present. Explain yourself, son. The ID number belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous! Just how? I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge. You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I'd appreciate if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? Not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. You are our own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we looked up her ID number, and it's not 77777 then. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. Lana Skye, I'm a-calling you out. Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Oh. Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of prosecution for that trial. At the time, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana, I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, what are you saying?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you didn't.
I don't have to, Officer Marshall.
Why won't you answer him?
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved.
But Lana!
Even if it meant forging evidence. Oh, dear God. See? That's what I'm talking about. No! No!
Order! 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 Order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir that all the chaos in the courtroom couldn't be quelled. The conclusion would have to wait until the following day. Oh, dear God. Yeah, we're saving. We got things to do. Later, guys.